The city of Neoterra never slept. Its towers reached high into the misty clouds, their glass walls glowing with shifting neon colors. Air traffic hummed in the skies as hovercars zipped through layers of light. Among them, none drew more attention than the sleek, crimson Ferrari that cut through the air like a predator of metal and fire. It belonged to Ronan Vale, the youngest billionaire CEO in the city. People whispered about him with both admiration and dislike. He was brilliant in business, ruthless in competition, and proud of his wealth. More than anything, he was known for showing off. Wherever Ronan went, his Ferrari went with him. The machine was more than a car, it was a symbol. On that evening, Ronan parked the Ferrari outside a grand tower where a new corporate expo was being held. Cameras flashed as he stepped out, tall and sharply dressed, his smile practiced for the crowd. The Ferrari sat behind him, its body polished like liquid fire, its engine humming softly with power. The crowd admired it, many taking pictures and murmuring about its design. It was rumored to be fitted with parts imported from alien trade technology no ordinary human could understand, let alone repair. As Ronan posed for photos, a sound disrupted the perfect moment. Chrrrk. The Ferrari gave a sharp sputter, its hovering frame trembling before dropping heavily onto the ground with a hiss. The engine whined, then cut out completely. Lights on its console flickered. The crowd gasped. Ronan froze, his smile cracking. Cameras turned from his face to the smoking Ferrari. The billionaire clenched his teeth. His perfect image was falling apart in seconds. Back away. Ronan barked at the curious onlookers. It's fine. Just a minor issue. But it wasn't fine. The Ferrari's systems refused to restart. It sat there, dead, in front of hundreds of watching eyes. Among the crowd stood a woman named Myra. She wore a simple jacket and carried a small tool pouch slung at her side. She wasn't part of the wealthy crowd. She wasn't dressed for an expo. She had only stopped to watch the Ferrari up close, curious about the alien tech engine she had heard rumors about. When the car died, Myra's sharp eyes caught details others missed. A faint pulse under the engine casing. A misaligned circuit glowing with the wrong rhythm. She tilted her head, already knowing what the problem was. Before she thought twice, she stepped forward, weaving through the crowd until she reached the Ferrari. Don't touch that. Ronan's voice cut through the air, sharp as a blade. The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to Myra. She stood calmly, her hand hovering above the Ferrari's side panel. It's overheating, she said plainly. If you start it again like this, the core will fry itself. Ronan narrowed his eyes at her. To him, she was a stranger, an ordinary face in a sea of unimportant ones. The idea that someone like her would dare speak about his Ferrari, his pride, was unbearable. You don't know what you're talking about, Ronan snapped. Step away. This machine is worth more than your entire life. The crowd murmured. Some laughed nervously. Others frowned at his harsh words. Myra didn't flinch. I know what I'm talking about, she said. Her voice was calm, almost too calm for the tension in the air. Your cooling channel is blocked. One adjustment, and it will run again. Ronan waved his hand dismissively. Security, he barked. Two guards stepped forward, but they hesitated. They had seen Myra's confident expression. The way she looked at the machine wasn't like a tourist. It was the look of someone who understood. The Ferrari let out another sputter, smoke curling from its vents. The crowd's whispers grew louder. Ronan's face flushed red. Move aside, Myra said softly. She crouched, already reaching for her pouch. Ronan opened his mouth to yell again, but the sound of the Ferrari cutting out completely silenced him. Its lights died. The once mighty machine now looked helpless, broken in front of everyone. The billionaire clenched his fists. His pride told him to push her away, to refuse help from someone he considered beneath him. But another part of him, the part that feared embarrassment, hesitated. Myra didn't wait for permission. She pressed a hidden release on the side panel, a spot no mechanic in Ronan's employ had ever noticed. The casing clicked open. The crowd leaned forward, whispering in awe. Inside, a maze of glowing circuits pulsed faintly. Myra's eyes scanned the engine, her fingers brushing wires with practiced precision. She pulled a slim tool from her pouch and tapped a sequence across a small grid. Sparks danced. "There," she muttered. "Faulty alignment. Whoever built this didn't understand how alien cores balance energy. They forced the flow instead of guiding it." She twisted a final piece into place. The Ferrari's engine gave a deep hum. Lights flared back to life. The machine lifted gracefully from the ground, floating with a steady glow brighter than before. The roar of its engine echoed across the plaza, smooth and powerful, as if reborn. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed wildly. Ronan stared, his words lost. His Ferrari, his pride, was alive again, and it was this woman, not his team of engineers, who had saved it. Myra stood, wiping her hands. She didn't smile. She didn't ask for thanks. She simply closed her pouch and turned to leave, melting into the crowd. Ronan's voice finally returned. "Wait," he shouted, stepping forward. But Myra was already walking away, her figure swallowed by neon lights and shadows. The billionaire stood frozen, his Ferrari floating behind him, running better than ever. The crowd still buzzed with excitement, but Ronan felt something else in the air. It wasn't just surprise. It was the beginning of a story he didn't yet understand. The plaza still buzzed with energy long after Myra disappeared into the crowd. People replayed what they had seen again and again on their hollow screens: an unknown woman fixing the most advanced Ferrari hovercar in seconds, while the billionaire owner had only stood and watched. Ronan Vale sat inside the revived machine, his hands gripping the smooth steering panel. The Ferrari purred beneath him, steady, powerful, alive. It felt even stronger than before, as though Myra's hands had not simply repaired it but improved it. For the first time in years, Ronan didn't feel in control. He was used to commanding rooms, shaping markets, even buying people's silence. But that woman Myra had walked away as if none of it mattered. She hadn't asked for payment, recognition, or even his gratitude. She had simply fixed the problem and left. It gnawed at him. The expo continued, but Ronan's mind was elsewhere. As the night wore on, he finally dismissed the event and flew back to his tower. The Ferrari moved like a dream, smooth in ways it had never been before. Every turn, every acceleration felt different, cleaner, sharper. He could not deny it, Myra had done something no one else had managed. But how? The next morning, the story spread through Neoterra. News networks replayed the footage endlessly. "Mystery woman fixes billionaire's car," the headlines read. Some painted Ronan as a fool, a man who didn't understand his own machine. Others praised Myra, calling her a genius. For Ronan, the attention was unbearable. He hated the way people laughed at him in the news feeds. He hated that his moment of weakness had become entertainment. But more than anything, he hated that he didn't know who Myra was. Later that day, Ronan sat in his office, staring out at the sprawling city. His assistant, a quiet man named Eric, entered. "Sir," Eric said carefully, "we've been receiving requests for interviews. People want to know if you've hired the woman who fixed your Ferrari." Ronan turned sharply. "I don't even know her name." Eric hesitated. "Should we find her?" "Yes," Ronan said at once. Then softer, almost to himself, "She knew things no engineer in the city knows. I want to know how." Meanwhile, Myra walked through the older districts of Neoterra. The neon glow here was weaker, the towers shorter, the air less clean. She blended easily among workers and traders, people who had no interest in flashy expos or billionaire toys. She stopped at a small garage tucked between two warehouses. Inside, tools and parts were scattered across worn tables. Old machines, broken drones, and discarded hover bikes filled the room. To most, it looked like a junkyard. To Myra, it was a workshop, a place where she could breathe. She sat at a bench and pulled out her notes. On paper, lines and circles formed strange designs, blueprints that did not look human. The core systems she had studied long ago were drawn again and again, each time improved, refined. Her mind wandered back to the Ferrari. The alien tech core it used was unstable because it was forced into human design. She had known the moment she saw it. Fixing it had been simple. But the attention it brought that worried her. She preferred silence. She preferred shadows. Back in his tower, Ronan grew restless. His mind refused to let go of the image of Myra walking away. Finally, he ordered his systems to scan the city's surveillance feeds. Hours passed before Eric returned with results. "Sir, we found her. Name, Myra Solin. Former engineer. She worked in an independent lab 5 years ago, then disappeared from records. No corporate ties, no official projects since." Ronan frowned. "An independent lab? What kind?" "Unclear," Eric replied. "But there are rumors she worked on alien-inspired designs." Nothing was ever confirmed. Ronan leaned back in his chair. His interest only grew. This wasn't just some mechanic from the lower districts. This was someone who understood things corporations had spent billions trying to unlock. He made his decision. "Prepare the car. I want to meet her." That evening, Myra was adjusting an old drone when she heard the hum of engines outside. She stepped out of her garage and froze. The crimson Ferrari hovered at the curb, glowing like fire against the gray street. And stepping out, tall and commanding, was Ronan Vale himself. The workers nearby stopped to stare. They had never seen a billionaire in this part of the city. Ronan walked up to her, his expression unreadable. For a long moment, the two only looked at each other. "You left without answering my question," Ronan said at last. His voice was not as sharp as before. "How did you fix it?" Myra crossed her arms. "Because I understood the problem." Ronan gave a short laugh. "Every engineer I hired claimed to understand. They couldn't. You could." "Why?" Myra turned away. "Because they see machines as trophies. I see them as living systems. Alien cores aren't like engines. They breathe. You can't force them, you guide them." Her words were simple, but they struck Ronan deeply. He had never thought of technology like that. "I want you to work for me," he said quickly. "Name your price." Myra shook her head. "I don't work for corporations. Not anymore." Ronan frowned. He wasn't used to hearing no. But Myra's calm refusal only made him more determined. "Then at least tell me this," he said, his voice lower now. "What else have you built?" For the first time, Myra's eyes flickered with something other than calm. She didn't answer. She simply turned back into her workshop. Ronan stood there, watching as the door closed. He felt frustration, yes. But more than that, he felt curiosity. This woman had secrets. And he was going to uncover them. The city lights outside Myra's workshop flickered as night deepened. The streets grew quieter, but inside, the soft glow of her lamps lit piles of notes and scattered parts. She sat at her bench, eyes focused on a half-finished engine core, her hands moving with careful precision. Every motion was practiced, almost natural, as if she wasn't building a machine but guiding something alive into balance. Yet her mind wasn't on the work. It was on Ronan Vale. He had come to her workshop himself, a man who normally commanded others from the top of a glass tower. She had expected him to boast, to mock, maybe even threaten. Instead, he had asked questions. He wanted to know more. That unsettled her. The next morning, Myra left her workshop to buy parts in the market. She moved quickly, keeping her hood low. But she wasn't surprised when she noticed Ronan's Ferrari hovering at the edge of the district, waiting. He stepped out as she passed, dressed less formally this time but still carrying the weight of power. "You're following me," Myra said, not slowing. "I'm curious," Ronan replied, walking beside her. "People don't just fix alien tech engines with a few tools. I need to know how you did it." Myra sighed. "I told you already. Your engine was forced. I released the flow." "That answer isn't enough," Ronan said. His voice was calm, not arrogant this time. "Myra, I run one of the largest corporations on Neoterra. I have teams of the best engineers. Yet none of them could do what you did in seconds. You have knowledge they don't. Where did you learn it?" They stopped at a quiet corner of the market. Myra looked at him, her dark eyes sharp. "You want the truth?" she asked. "Yes," Ronan said firmly. "Fine," Myra replied. "I studied alien designs. Not just trade scraps your corporations buy. Real designs. Years ago, I worked in a small lab. We weren't funded by the government or big companies. We searched the ruins left by old visitors. We found fragments machines that didn't belong to Earth." Ronan's breath caught. He had heard rumors of such things, but they were always dismissed as myths or failures. "What happened to this lab?" he asked. Myra looked away. "We were offered money. Corporations wanted to buy our discoveries. My partners sold. I refused. They wanted profit, not progress. I left, and the lab collapsed. Since then, I've worked alone." Ronan studied her face. She spoke without pride or bitterness, only fact. That made her words even heavier. "You improved my Ferrari with knowledge no corporation has," Ronan said slowly. "Do you realize what that means?" Myra shook her head. "It means nothing. I won't sell it. I won't join your company. I won't build toys for rich men." Ronan frowned. His old instinct was to argue, to throw wealth and power at her until she gave in. But something in Myra's voice made him pause. She wasn't rejecting him out of arrogance. She believed deeply in what she said. Still, curiosity burned in him. "Myra," he said, his tone quieter, "show me what else you've built. Not to buy. Not to own. Just, show me." Myra hesitated for a long time. Then, finally, she turned back toward her workshop. "Follow me," she said. Ronan stepped inside for the first time. The space was small, filled with shelves of wires, scraps, and machines in various states of repair. But in the center stood something different, a sphere-shaped engine, faintly glowing with blue light. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Ronan stopped, his eyes wide. "What is this?" Myra walked up to it, placing her hand on the surface. "A prototype. I call it a balance core. It draws power not from fuel or solar cells but from cosmic particles. Endless energy, if tuned correctly. It took me years to design, using alien principles." Ronan circled it slowly. He had seen countless engines, but nothing like this. It was elegant, alive. "This could change everything," he whispered. Myra's gaze hardened. "It could also destroy everything if used wrongly. Corporations would build weapons with it. Governments would fight over it. That's why I keep it here, hidden." Ronan looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. Not as a stranger who embarrassed him, not as a mechanic who fixed his car, but as a mind far greater than the ones he paid billions to employ. "You're wasting your genius in this garage," he said softly. "I'm protecting it," Myra replied. Before Ronan could answer, a sharp buzz filled the workshop. Myra's eyes flicked to a small sensor on the wall. Its light flashed red. She grabbed Ronan's arm. "We've been traced." "What?" "Your visit here. Corporations monitor you. They know you came to me. Now they know I'm real." Outside, the sound of engines roared closer, heavy, mechanical, nothing like Ronan's Ferrari. Black drones swept over the rooftops, their red eyes glowing as they scanned the streets. Ronan's jaw tightened. "They're here for you." Myra nodded. "For my work." The workshop trembled as the first drone fired a warning shot, blasting a hole in the ground near the door. Sparks flew. Myra's voice was steady, but her eyes burned with determination. "You wanted to know my secret, Ronan. Now you'll see it." She ran to the sphere-shaped engine and pressed her hand against its surface. The soft blue glow flared brighter, flooding the workshop with light. The drones outside paused, their sensors disrupted. The air hummed with strange energy. Ronan stared in awe. "What are you doing?" Myra didn't look at him. "Showing you why I can't let this fall into the wrong hands." The drones circled above the workshop, their red eyes glowing in the night like hunters closing in on prey. The hum of their engines shook the walls, and the air outside grew heavy with the smell of heated metal. Inside, the balance core pulsed brighter, responding to Myra's touch. Its blue glow spread across the room, making every shadow tremble. Ronan shielded his eyes, unsure if he was standing in danger or witnessing a miracle. "Myra," he said quickly, "what are they going to do?" "What they always do," Myra replied calmly, though her voice carried a weight. "Take what isn't theirs. And destroy anyone who stands in the way." The first drone fired. A burst of plasma struck the workshop's door, blasting it inward. Shards of metal flew across the room. Ronan ducked as sparks rained down. Myra stayed steady, her hand pressed against the balance core. The glowing sphere pulsed again, sending a wave of energy outward. The air rippled like water, and the incoming drones staggered mid-flight, their sensors flickering. "Move!" Myra shouted. She grabbed Ronan's wrist and pulled him toward a side exit. They ran into the narrow streets, the sound of drones echoing above them. Workers in the district looked up, startled, as the machine swooped low, scanning for Myra. Ronan's chest tightened. He was used to boardrooms, deals, and cameras not being hunted through dark streets. But Myra ran as if she had lived this chase before, her steps quick, her eyes sharp. "Where are we going?" Ronan asked breathlessly. "To a place they can't track us," Myra said. They darted into an alley, weaving through stacks of metal scraps and broken drones. The sound of engines grew closer, red light slicing through the shadows. A drone spotted them, its siren blaring. Myra spun, pulling a small device from her pouch. With one quick motion, she tossed it into the air. The device unfolded mid-flight, releasing a burst of electromagnetic light. The drone froze, its engines sputtering before it crashed into the ground with a heavy thud. Ronan stared at the wreck. "You built that too?" Myra didn't answer. She was already pulling him forward again. Minutes later, they reached the edge of the district. Before them stretched a wide canal where old hoverpods floated quietly. Myra rushed to one, its paint scratched and panels mismatched. To Ronan, it looked like a pile of junk. "This is your escape?" he asked doubtfully. Myra smirked faintly. "Don't judge by appearances." She tapped the pod's console, and the engine roared to life, not with the shaky hum of old tech, but with a smooth power that reminded Ronan of his Ferrari after Myra had fixed it. The pod lifted gracefully above the water. "Get in," she ordered. Ronan climbed in beside her just as the drones appeared above the canal, their sirens howling. Plasma fire rained down, striking the water with bright explosions. Myra slammed the controls, and the pod shot forward, weaving through the chaos with impossible precision. Ronan gripped the seat, his heart racing. This isn't just an escape pod. What did you put in this thing? Myra's eyes stayed fixed on the path ahead. A piece of the balance core. Enough to outrun anyone. The pod twisted sharply, diving under an old bridge as the drones tried to follow. Their heavy frames smashed against the structure, sending shards of metal into the water. Myra guided the pod into a hidden tunnel beneath the city, where the glow of neon lights faded into darkness. The noise of the chase faded behind them. Only the hum of the pod remained, steady and strong. For a long moment, silence filled the cabin. Ronan finally exhaled. You saved my life. Myra shook her head. No, I saved the core. You're just attached to it right now. Her words stung, but Ronan understood. This wasn't about him, it was about something larger. Still, he couldn't stop his thoughts from racing. Those corporations, he said slowly, they sent drones into the city without warning. That's not just theft, that's war. Myra glanced at him. Now you understand why I stayed hidden. If they think I can build more cores, they won't stop. They'll burn half the city to get it. Ronan's mind flashed with the headlines, the cameras, the endless eyes of the public. If people knew what you've built, if they knew corporations were trying to silence you, they wouldn't let it happen. They'd support you. Myra's voice was calm but firm. People forget. Corporations don't. Ronan fell silent. He was a man who thrived on deals and contracts, but this was something no business plan could solve. And yet, deep inside, a fire lit in him. He had resources, money, influence, networks that Myra lacked. Perhaps he couldn't build engines like her, but he could fight in other ways. Then let me help you, he said quietly. Myra didn't answer right away. The tunnel walls gave way to a hidden chamber deep underground. She guided the pod into a dock where dim lights flickered on. The chamber was filled with more prototypes, more strange designs. Engines that hummed softly. Machines that pulsed with faint energy. It was a hidden lab, built in the shadows, safe from the eyes above. Ronan stepped out, his jaw tightening as he looked around. He realized the truth: Myra wasn't just a mechanic who fixed cars. She was holding the keys to humanity's future in her hands. And now, the corporations knew. Myra finally spoke. You can't help me, Ronan. Not unless you're willing to risk everything. Your company, your power, even your life. Ronan met her gaze, steady. Then maybe it's time I risk something real. The hidden chamber was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the faint pulse of the balance core. Myra moved among her prototypes, her fingers brushing over circuits and glowing engines with a familiarity that showed years of study. Ronan followed her, his eyes wide, trying to absorb everything at once. You've built all of this by yourself, he asked. Myra nodded. Not entirely by myself. I had guidance once. Ronan raised an eyebrow. Guidance? From who? She stopped beside a large console. The blue light of the balance core reflected in her eyes. From someone, or something not from Earth. Ronan blinked. You mean, aliens? Myra nodded again, her expression serious. Years ago, I discovered traces of technology that did not belong to humans. I followed the patterns, learned the designs. A small envoy from another world shared knowledge with me, enough to understand, enough to improve our machines. But I never sold it. I never wanted corporations or governments to misuse it. Ronan's heart raced. He had read rumors of alien artifacts, but this was proof. Proof that humans could learn and even improve what aliens created. And here she was, hiding it in a small garage, unseen and unknown. So, All this, he said, gesturing to the engines and machines around them, it's alien-inspired. Partially, Myra replied. But the core principles are human. Observation, adaptation, balance. Humans are unpredictable, creative, and resilient. That's why these designs work for us. And why corporations can't replicate them. They think in rules, not possibilities. Ronan looked at her, awe growing. You're telling me, we could build engines, vehicles, machines that no corporation, no government, no one could match. Myra's eyes sparkled faintly. If used wisely, yes. But we must be careful. If the wrong people find this, they will destroy anyone in their way. Ronan nodded slowly. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about money or power. He was thinking about possibility. Humanity's future. And the woman in front of him who could change it all. Over the next days, Ronan returned to Myra's workshop regularly. He brought supplies, funding, and even engineers, but he didn't allow them to touch her projects. She worked alone, but with his support, she could access rare materials and components from across the galaxy. One evening, Myra led Ronan to a prototype unlike anything he had seen before. A small, sleek spacecraft that shimmered with energy. This is the first interstellar pod I built using alien design principles, she explained. It doesn't need traditional fuel. It draws energy directly from cosmic particles in space. If tuned correctly, it could travel farther than anything humans have ever built. Ronan stepped closer, his hand hovering above the hull. You mean, humans could explore the stars with this? Yes, Myra said softly. And survive. Most alien tech fails because humans try to control it instead of understanding it. That's why we can succeed where others fail. Ronan's mind raced. The implications were enormous. Humanity could leap ahead in exploration, travel, even defense. All thanks to Myra's secret knowledge and their alien connection. But then Myra's expression grew serious. I have to warn you, Ronan. Corporations know I exist now. They won't stop until they have this tech. They will try to steal, copy, or destroy everything I built. We need to protect it and ourselves. Ronan clenched his fists. Then we'll fight. I don't care how many resources they have. They won't take this from you or from humanity. Myra gave a faint smile. I wasn't sure you'd understand. I understand more than you think, he replied. Humans are clever. Unpredictable. That's why we survive. That's why you succeeded when no one else could. Her eyes softened. For the first time, she seemed to trust him completely. The next morning, Myra began preparing the interstellar pod for testing. She adjusted the cosmic particle array, her hands moving with exact precision. Ronan observed closely, learning from her without asking questions. He didn't need to touch the controls. Watching Myra work was enough. When the pod finally powered up, a soft blue glow filled the room. It lifted slightly from the floor, hovering steadily. The balance core within it pulsed like a heartbeat. Ronan stepped forward, awestruck. It's beautiful. Myra nodded. It's more than that. It's proof that humans can adapt and improve even what aliens leave behind. That's why I do this, not for money, not for fame, but for the future. Ronan understood now. She wasn't just a genius. She was a symbol. A living example of human potential HFY, in every sense. Suddenly, a sharp alert sounded from the workshop's sensors. Red lights flashed. They've found us, Myra said, her voice calm but firm. The corporations. They've sent drones again, and this time, more than before. We can't let them reach the pod. Ronan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Then we fight. Not with weapons, with our minds. With what we built. with humans' ability to adapt. Myra nodded, activating the pod's stealth systems. The blue glow dimmed slightly, hiding it from sensors. Then let's show them what humans are capable of. Outside, the city slept under neon lights, unaware that a battle for humanity's future had already begun. And in the hidden workshop, two humans stood together, ready to face the corporations and protect a secret that could change the galaxy forever. The night air over Neoterra was filled with the low hum of engines. Hundreds of corporate drones had converged on the district where Myra's hidden workshop stood. Their red sensors scanned the streets, cutting through shadows like blades. This time, the corporations were not holding back. They wanted the balance core and the interstellar pod, everything Myra had built. Inside the workshop, Myra and Ronan worked quickly. The interstellar pod hovered in the center, glowing faintly blue. Its engines hummed like a heartbeat, ready to launch. "They'll breach the chamber soon," Myra said, eyes sharp. "We have to move fast." Ronan's hands tightened on the console. "Do you want me to fight them?" "I have resources, weapons." Myra shook her head. "Not yet. They can't match what we have here if we're clever. Watch, adapt, and act when necessary." Ronan nodded. He trusted her instincts now. She had proven time and again that human ingenuity could outmatch even the best technology corporations could buy. The first drones reached the outer doors, firing plasma bursts that struck with deadly accuracy. Sparks flew as metal twisted under the assault. Myra moved toward the interstellar pod and activated the defensive systems. A translucent energy shield formed around it, reflecting most attacks back at the drones. "Impressive," Ronan muttered. He had seen advanced weaponry, but Myra's defenses were unlike anything he had imagined. The shield pulsed, absorbing energy and converting it into power for the pod. "They always think destruction is the answer," Myra said quietly. "They never consider that humans adapt." The drones pressed closer, but Myra guided the pod smoothly. Its engines glowed brighter, lifting it higher. She tapped a sequence on the console. With a soft hum, the pod accelerated into the air, weaving through the swarm with impossible precision. Ronan held on, feeling the thrill of the maneuver. "Hold on," Myra said, her voice steady. "They won't expect this." With a sudden burst of speed, the pod shot straight toward a narrow tunnel in the city's old district. The drones followed, but one by one, they collided with walls, bridges, and each other. Myra had chosen the path perfectly. Ronan's breath caught. "You planned all of this?" "Always," Myra replied, her eyes fixed ahead. "Every move, every turn. Humans survive because we see what others don't." Outside the tunnel, more corporate drones waited, forming a wall of red lights. Myra slowed the pod, hovering just above the canal. She activated the balance core's energy surge. A wave of pure power shot outward, disrupting drone sensors in a wide radius. Engines sputtered, cameras went dark, and many drones fell into the canal below. Ronan watched in awe. "You're using the balance core as a weapon?" Myra shook her head. "Not a weapon. A shield. I'm protecting what's ours. What belongs to humanity." The drones regrouped, firing again, but every attack seemed weaker, slower. Myra's mastery over the core's energy made the pod untouchable. She guided it over the city, the blue glow reflecting on every building. This is impossible," Ronan muttered. "No corporation should survive this battle and win." Myra smiled faintly. "That's because they never expected humans to fight like this. Not with machines, not with money, not with armies, but with brains, courage, and understanding." The drones finally retreated, their numbers dwindling under Myra's control. The corporations would regroup, try again, but for now, the workshop and its secrets were safe. Myra landed the pod on a quiet rooftop, the glow dimming as systems went into standby. Ronan stepped out, breathing heavily, adrenaline coursing through him. He looked at Myra, really looked at her. She was calm, collected, yet the energy she had displayed proved what he had suspected all along: she was extraordinary. "You just defeated their entire fleet," he said quietly. "All with one pod and a shield." Myra nodded. "I didn't do it alone. Humans always have the ability to survive. We adapt, we think, and we act. Corporations rely on rules. We rely on ingenuity." Ronan's chest swelled with pride. Not for himself, but for humanity. Myra had shown him the true meaning of HFY: humans, clever, brave, and unpredictable, could face any challenge, even one far greater than themselves. As the sun began to rise over Neoterra, Myra and Ronan looked out at the city. The balance core pulsed softly in the pod, a reminder that their fight wasn't over. Corporations would return, stronger and smarter. But now, they had a secret, a weapon, and most importantly, knowledge that no one could take away. Ronan turned to Myra. "I see now, you're not just protecting technology. You're protecting humanity's potential." Myra nodded. "Exactly. And now, it's time we start using that potential to change the world, not for profit, not for power, but for survival, progress, and exploration." Ronan smiled. "Then we fight together." Myra's faint smile returned. Together. The city below continued to sleep, unaware that a new force had risen. Two humans, one brilliant mind and one resourceful leader, had just shown the galaxy that human ingenuity could outmatch technology, power, and even alien-inspired machines. The corporations had underestimated them. They had underestimated humanity. And humanity was not to be underestimated. The sun had risen fully over Neoterra, washing the city in golden light. From the rooftop where Myra and Ronan stood, the streets below looked peaceful, but both knew danger had not disappeared. Corporations would recover. They would return, stronger, smarter, and more determined. But now, humanity had a secret. Ronan turned to Myra, his expression serious but calm. "We can't hide forever. They'll come again. Next time, it won't just be drones, they'll bring armies, fleets, everything they have." Myra's gaze remained on the horizon, where the neon towers still glimmered faintly. "Then we make sure they fail again. Not with force alone, but with strategy, technology, and human ingenuity. That is something they can never fully predict." Ronan nodded. "I understand. But we need allies, people we can trust." "I have a list," Myra said quietly. "Scientists, engineers, thinkers who are willing to risk everything to protect what we built. People who understand that technology isn't just a tool, it's a responsibility." Ronan smiled faintly. "Then we build our own team. Not for profit, not for corporations, but for humanity." Over the next weeks, Myra and Ronan worked tirelessly. They trained their allies in the use of the interstellar pod, taught them the principles of balance cores, and developed systems to protect and replicate the technology safely. Neoterra's skyline became a hidden network of workshops, labs, and safe houses, all connected but invisible to prying eyes. Ronan's company, once focused solely on profit, was now a tool to fund their mission. He allocated resources discreetly, quietly acquiring rare materials and funding research without drawing attention. Myra taught him patience and precision, while he offered strategy and influence. Together, they were unstoppable. And the corporations? They tried to strike. Drones flew over districts, sabotage teams infiltrated facilities, but every time, Myra and her allies were ready. Each attack failed. Each time, the balance core's energy and human adaptability proved stronger than greed and machinery. One night, Myra led Ronan to the interstellar pod again. The city below slept quietly, unaware that above it, a small group of humans held the future of exploration and defense in their hands. This pod, Myra said, running her fingers over the smooth surface, is just the beginning. Humans can now reach places we never thought possible. Other worlds, deep space, even the stars that alien civilizations have left behind. But the corporations will always chase us. They want to control everything. Ronan nodded. Then we stay ahead. We think faster, act smarter, and use what we've learned. Humans are clever, Myra. And now, we have proof. Myra smiled faintly, the blue glow of the pod reflecting in her eyes. Proof that humans can not only survive but thrive. That even when faced with impossible odds, we can create, adapt, and succeed. Ronan's mind raced. He realized that the fight was not only about technology or power, it was about the future of humanity itself. With Myra's genius and human determination, no corporation, no enemy, no machine could stop them. Weeks turned into months. Myra and Ronan's network expanded. Laboratories hidden in abandoned sectors, disguised as ordinary buildings, produced advanced engines, shields, and pods. Each new machine was carefully tested, improved, and hidden. Corporations continued to try to find them, but every attempt failed. The humans always adapted, always stayed one step ahead. Ronan sometimes marveled at Myra's patience. She had created a system where humans, not technology, were the ultimate strength. She had taught him and their allies that ingenuity and courage were as important as engines and cores. One evening, Myra and Ronan watched the city from the rooftop again. Hovercars zipped below, neon lights reflecting in their eyes. You know, Ronan said softly, if anyone knew what we've built, what we've achieved, they wouldn't believe it. Myra smiled. Let them try to stop us. We've learned to move in the shadows, to protect what matters. And one day, humanity will show the galaxy what it can do. Ronan looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. We've already begun. Humans are ready. Months later, the first interstellar test flight was ready. Myra piloted the pod herself, with Ronan monitoring systems from a nearby control hub. The pod rose above Neoterra, slipping past detection, and shot into space, its blue glow cutting through the darkness like a comet. It crossed the atmosphere, leaving the city behind. Instruments confirmed what they had dreamed for years, stable flight beyond the planet, powered by the balance core and guided by human ingenuity. The test was flawless. Ronan's heart raced. This changes everything. Humans can reach the stars. No one can stop us. Myra's eyes gleamed. And we will continue. Build, protect, explore. That is what humans do. That is what makes us strong. She paused, looking at him. We survived the corporations. We outsmarted them. And now, humanity will rise. Ronan nodded, a smile forming. Together, we'll show the galaxy the true power of human ingenuity. As the pod disappeared into the stars, the city below remained unaware. But above it, two humans had changed the course of history. Myra, the genius guided by alien knowledge, and Ronan, the strategist who understood human potential, had proven that even in a world dominated by corporations, humans could adapt, survive, and thrive. And the galaxy would soon learn what humanity was truly capable of. Because humans were clever, unpredictable, and unstoppable.